Hey everyone, it's thru. Welcome back, or welcome to the channel, whichever it is. Today I'm going to go ahead and run through a CUHOF number 4 key. I've got a blueprint for this particular key. They're pretty hard to get blueprints, but this one I have a key for. So basically where we are is planet Tulane, which is kind of the back end corner of the universe of Entropia. But once you get here, it's kind of this always was misleading to me. This is a lake right here where my cursor is. I always thought it was a teleporter. I kept wondering, what the heck? Why can't I teleport to it? It's not a teleporter. It's a lake. So, yeah. What you have to do is probably either teleport over here or grab a ship from one of these two teleporters and just fly on over. It's kind of in a little valley deal. And then there's a cave, and you can do a lot of this stuff here. Did I go live? Maybe I went live. I don't know. I don't think no, I didn't go live. Anyhow, so here we are at CUHOF 4 and CUHOF daily missions. Right here is the guy for these are, they're pretty basic. But as you can see, they've got all the different CUHOF mobs, which are Duhol, Catfish, Mokot, and Kafaz. Or, yeah, that's how I would say it anyway. It's probably wrong. But anyway, make sure you grab all these just in case. It'll tell you what keys. The Duhol is in CUHOF 5. That was the last one I did. So might as well just up it. But as you can see there, I've got some perception gained and some dexterity gained from the Mokot and Catfish, it looks like. And the Catfish, I had 0.034 of aim skill. So it was aim for Catfish, dexterity for the Mokot, and the Catfish was 0.046 of perception up there on the screen. So yeah, just in case. I mean, those are really low because my skills on those are really kind of abnormally high, where I've got them on, near 10K on perception, I believe. Yeah, 8,400. So, there's a lot of scaling when it comes to skills. So what it looks like a little tiny amount, you'd be like, what the hell is it worth to me? If you don't have a whole lot of skills and you get that, it probably would be more noticeable for you. So anyhow, here we are. This is the door. There's 5 instances. We've got we've got kind of like a trainer instance over here. And then there's the CUHOF 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to go ahead and go into the 4 solo because I have the key. Now, if you don't have a key, you can use Nawa vials. And basically, you can do this without a key if you have the Nawa vials, but what you want to do is you want to go ahead and make your own team. I usually just make a blank team like this. And then you can kind of enter in here, and it'll tell you that if it's first time, you'll need Nawa energy cells. And I believe it's 4. It's like 1 per instance, I believe. I forget. So, but there's a cost to the Nawa cells if you don't have a key. So that's how you would enter it solo, but you have to make a team. And then, you can leave the team in there. But I would, before you get to there's chests in these instances at the very end. So I would kill your team before, but you don't need to loot any of the mobs in there. You can just go at it and not worry about it. But that's if you don't have a key and you want to do that. So I'm going to disband the team. I don't need to do that with a key. So we'll go ahead and use the key. All right. So here we are in CUHOF 4 instance. This is pretty basic little entry area that you can get everything repaired up or whatever it is that you've got going. And then once everything loads up, the door will turn green, like it just briefly did there for a sec, and let you know that you're ready to go. Now, when you go to the team one and you do the solo instance, it shows them all as shared loot. So But either way, whether you loot them or not, it doesn't matter. Like if I loot it, there's no loot. Creature didn't carry any loot. That's what it'll tell you. So you can loot them or not. It doesn't really matter. I wouldn't waste a loot pill. I wouldn't, bother wasting your pet's nutrio consumption on this instance. It's just really not too worth it. But we can kind of go over while we're here. Kind of go over the mob here. So we've got, once again, it's stamina times 10 is what your hit points are on your mob. So if he's, it's kind of handy to have a scanner if you're kind of new to the game and you're not too sure what to expect on things. So this one's got 46 stamina. So it'll be 460 hit points, which isn't too terribly bad of a little mob. Now, of course, the cost to kill is going to vary, really depending on your setup. So you could ask what the cost to kill is. My cost is going to be a lot lower than the typical entry level cost, just because of the gear I've got and the buffs I've got on top of that gear. There's compounding effects with equipment. So, that's really in a lot of ways, it's the buffs that are probably more important in the game. Where a lot of people think it's the weapon is the most important. And I would almost argue that it's the buffs that can pretty much make any weapon better, no matter what you do in the game. If you've got good buffs, the compounding effect on a good weapon, it has a real compounding effect, and otherwise on other weapons. So, that's what I would argue, rather than if you're kind of starting out and you're kind of looking for, okay, well, I've got to get a good weapon. Well, a good weapon is good, but if you don't have the buffs to really capitalize on that weapon yet, you're kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of a deficit until you catch back up to those buffs, So there's a couple ways to do it. You do it however you wish you want to do it, but there is a little bit of weight if you go that other way. So it's the same instance, it's the same cave. The only difference is what the mobs are. If it's dew hall, it's all filled up with dew hall at this point. In the CUHOF 5 instance, and then in the lower instances, it's different mobs. This one's got the mokat, the kafas, and the kafish. So right now we go through the kafas, and then I believe the next room will be the mokats. But the main thing you want to do with these, or the main goal for these instances, is really it's there's some special loot in here. There's some unlimited armor that's pretty interesting that you can loot in here. You can loot shops, you can loot apartments. A lot of people have looted them through the instances. But you can do that with any activity on Tulane, actually. They've got kind of an interesting deal where if you're mining or crafting or hunting, you have a chance to loot a shop out of the middle of nowhere. So there's interesting loot when it comes to that. And then there's also Mercel is Tulane's. It's kind of like Arcoin on Planet Arcadia, if you're familiar with that. It's kind of like its own interior currency for the planet. So you can get those Mercel tokens, and if you collect enough, you can buy more shops. They have other shops for sale that are only through these tokens. They've got other apartments that you could buy through these tokens. They've also got an interesting little vendor, like an NPC vendor that has some shop-related things that you could buy, some decorations for your home or shop or apartment. So there's some really, and I'll probably do a video on that, just kind of go through what the vendor offers and where you would find some of that, because it's Tulane, it's got a new management, and they've really done a great job on just constantly adding content, getting feedback from the community. There really hasn't been a better Planet partner as far as that's concerned that we've seen so far. So it's a really nice, they do good work and they deserve credit for that. But you know, they've added a lot of content. They have a lot of focus on things like that, to where the Merzel is actually worth doing. The missions that they have a really long kind of storyline mission that I've spent probably 4 months doing it, but I'm on the very last stage now, to where I just have to craft a few things for 30 days. And then I get a crown, and it's basically an item that you can wear that'll give a 15% bonus to your crafting skill, which I'm a pretty big crafter. So that to me is probably one of the coolest items that, you know, as far as one of the more, one of the cooler items that I've seen in the game that caters to crafting for sure. The best I've seen, and I bought it right off the bat, but as soon as I saw it, was 4% crafting bonus. And I think I paid $7,000 ped for that, you know, so I am a nerd when it comes to skill gains. Because skills have value, you know. That's the one thing I learned in the 2008 cash out that I did. I cashed everything out. I sold all my skills. It took a year to sell everything. I had 250,000 skill points that I had to unload, and I knocked it all down to about 5,000 skill points left. So I pretty much just chipped everything out. And that's, by the time I was all said and done, you know, when I quit, it was, when I started it, it was kind of like, I don't know about this game. I don't think I'm not making anything, you know, it's just a waste of my time. I'm not seeing any gains, you know. I think I thought I was losing peds. And, turns around, by the time you sell the skills, by the time you sell your items, you know, you get really surprised by how much stuff is sitting there that you're not used to. And I wonder if that's going to be, I hope that's not reverbing back or anything. But yeah, skills have a value, so it's definitely worth doing. Anything you can to get a skill bonus, in my opinion, because it's a long haul. If you're in it for the long haul, you know, because, you know, 15% over a few years, that really adds up on some skills that you otherwise would have to pay a lot of money to buy back into, or, you know, to unlock something that you might want. At this point, thankfully, I don't have any. I have one more unlock, which is paramedic, and then a couple in manufacturing still, because I don't waste clicks. You know, I don't blindly click explosives or things of that nature just because, you know, if you don't have markup behind it, that's kind of the key to the game is, you know, craft things that have a markup that sells, and yeah, you might have to wait. But at least if you do it that way, you're not going to be losing all the time. You know, at least there's a chance that you can actually be coming ahead, you know, and then it's a whole game on trying to figure out what items have a markup when, you know, and it's ever changing. Some things sell really good, then people move on. They have a different weapon that they want to use. You know, there's so many different factors into picking the right things to craft. But so I'm, you know, even though I craft a lot, it's all my clicks are based off of a markup that I can sell. So I still don't have a whole lot of skill compared to some people who just sit at the machine all day and craft out explosives or, you know, whatever it is they're crafting out all day long. So it's kind of an interesting deal. Anyhow, we're at the Mokat parts, and these guys are, like I say, pretty easy. Let's see if we could scan one of these guys and give you some info. So these guys have 50 stamina. So we moved up 4. So from 460 hit points on the last ones, we're up to 500 hit points on these guys. And at the interesting part is at the end, you know, there's a lot of that crafting crown mission that I was talking about that Tulane has. There are many stages where you have to collect various parts. You have to collect the Mokat, the Mokat hands, and then you also have to collect the Kaffis tails, and then you also have to get the Kaffish, is it hides or skins or something like that? But there's various parts where you have to collect those, and it is actually one way to get those parts is running these. Just kind of, it's all random. you know, but sometimes you'll get Mokot hands, and sometimes you'll get the Duhall headbands, and sometimes you'll get the whatever random parts that are kind of rare that they have you go chasing after. So I enjoyed breaking it up. I don't mind farming the Mercil. I like buying the stuff with it. The Mercil has always sold well for me. You know, it sells at around 900%, I think. We could double check when we're done here and see what the markup's at. But yeah, it's actually been a pretty good instance for me. I mean, a lot of people say they don't, but I have a pretty good setup. So, you know, I often forget how hard it is when you're starting out and you don't have the buffs and you don't have the high efficiency and all that stuff. It takes a while to figure it all out, but you know, at least in my experience running them is, you know, it's not making, you know, thousands of peds, you know, it's not hand over fist profit, but it's not losing a ton either, you know. In fact, I'm overall, by the time you count the markups and stuff, I'm probably up a little bit, you know, over bits, but up a little bit is a hell of a lot better than down some, or, you know. Nothing to write home about, but it's also nothing to cry about. And that's important. And then, of course, you've got a couple hours to finish these, which should be plenty of time no matter what DPS you're running. I mean, it might be kind of a little tricky if you're running maybe an Apollo, but maybe I think it's still doable. I don't know. That would be a long-ass attempt, but I'm sure somebody's probably done it. Now, the cool thing about these instances, too, that if you're not aware, is that you can kind of get an idea of, you know, how much damage you're taking. Like, or how much damage you're doing, or how much heal points on yourself you've done, or how much killed creatures you're at. And, you know, before you end, you know, if you're kind of curious, I wonder how many creatures are in this thing. Your answer is right there. In other instances, they'll give you a little bit of a summary at the end. They don't, unlike Akis, so you have to go run and kind of figure out how much time was spent. But I think you can also figure out the time spent. Maybe not. Well, yeah, you could by deducting, right? By doing math, all that math, or in the UK, the maths. You got to add the S to it. The maths. It's all the maths in the world. We always learned it as math. It's just math. But technically, you know, it is pluralized mathematics. So I'll give them some credit. So now we're on the catfish, and these guys are, if you have short blades, these are really pain in the butt. But they kind of have an aggro range that, you know, if you just run around. But any flying mob is going to be more challenging for a melee user, just because a lot of times you're going to be just barely, you know, trying to jump and swing at them sometimes, and can be frustrating. But overall, I mean, I think it's after this room that we're pretty much done. And as you can tell with Duhall, the Duhalls are pretty chunky on the hit points. So it just takes time to kill them. They're not a bad mob, though. I actually kind of like them. They have the ugliest face in the game. That is for sure. Which, I kind of like it. I don't know. It's a pretty awesome face. There's my doggy. She is whining for some reason. All right, so these guys we can do. These guys we can do a scan on here. We can see what. So these are at 430 hit points. So 430 hit points on these guys. And like I say, you can loot some of the rare parts. And I don't have any music going on just because, you know, they have the copyright strikes and stuff. And I figure that if I'm going to do some narration on this stuff, I'm going to have to do without. So for that part, I apologize. Hopefully you guys are hearing the sound effects. And I didn't. Yeah, you guys should be hearing the sound effects anyway. Maybe. I don't know if you are. Hopefully you are. It says there's something going on with that on my thing. I'll go through the video and we'll see. Hopefully it's not too unbearingly quiet. But it's Baraka armor is what you find here is the unlimited. I believe it's Baraka. I could show that after we're done here. Show a sample of it. I've got a part, maybe 2 parts. So yeah, you're looking at pretty much 500 hit points or less on any of these mobs, and then of course, you know, depending on your cost to kill and time to kill, it'll vary a little bit. So one more little mini wave here. It's almost like Space Invaders. And then we've got, I think it's 2 bosses. I don't know why it's at 2 bosses in this one. The rest of them all have 1 boss, I believe. But the boss will appear in 32nd. Little kind of an interesting grammatical statement made there. But yeah, as you can tell, it's a pretty quick little instance. That's our door that we go through here after we kill these guys. And I don't know if those bosses have an extra chance of looting a part. You know, there might be a little bit to that too. But I do know that I get some pretty decent amount of parts. All right, so this is box 1. We got some Merzel token and some shrapnel and some residue. Nothing too exciting, but Merzel's now always, I like going for the Merzel. And now we've got some CUHOF key parts, which is good because I need those to make. And then some animal or eye oil. And some more Merzel. Smile. So that's about it. You know, there's 3 boxes that you loot. All the instances are the same. So you don't have to worry about, did I miss something? And then we can exit here and we'll be done. And this does give a counter at the end of all your little damages in case you're curious. The time spent, 20 minutes. There's 197 creatures in there. 2 of them are bosses, so 195 of regular mobs. And I'll kind of show you the Baraka armor here. Yeah, it looks like I have 2 parts. But this is the armor that drops in there. It's 8 burn, 5 cut, 3 electric, 13 impact, and 8 stab with 1800 durability. But it's a pretty neat little armor. So yeah, you get a chance to loot those in there. And I think that's about. I was going to show you the Merzel market values around 900% still. So if we, consider that that's 900% and we looted, 6 ped, then we're looking at, maybe 55 ped that we've got in markup, or 50 ped markup, something like that, which isn't too bad. And then you got a chance to loot some of these other things that I happen to need them, but they also do have a market value for people who also craft parts. Not too terribly often. The one downside on markets here is on markets off of Calypso is that, as you can see, there's only 26 pages. So the market is a little bit more limited. So you need more patience if you're selling stuff on foreign markets, which are Tulane or Next Island or Entropia, things like that. People will buy things, but they usually need time to see what you got. They need time to see it. They need time to some people come once a week, and that's when they look. So a lot of people think, well, why would I ever want to put stuff up on the market? And market sells. That's why you want to do that. If you want to turn over your stuff and get some money back a little bit for it, there's some costs, but there's also the opportunity to get more peds for your loot. And then, of course, you are going to have some failed sales, but there's a trial and error that you will find. You'll find things that are going to sell. Oils, I've never really had a problem selling oils. Sometimes it can be shoddy, but I've never really, as long as you're selling at a reasonable rate and you're not marking it up to 120%, thinking somebody is really desperate. They're never going to be that desperate unless it's a mistake, usually, especially when you can go run out and get all these oils pretty easy, so there's, if you're trying to be greedy with it, it's not going to work in your favor and you're going to waste an auction fee. But more or less, if you're fair, people want to buy stuff, and the market does work in this game. It's $450 million in annual turnover, so something to consider with that. And I believe that's it for CUHOF 4. So I appreciate everybody coming out, or at least watching, at least sitting in your chair and doing your thing. It's Forgo TV at Twitch, Forgoification at YouTube. And I appreciate you watching. You can subscribe, all that stuff, but I'll throw up some kind of related links. I'll do more of these videos. Kind of planning on doing maybe one a day if I can. Just throw out a little video somewhere, someplace doing something in the game, because that's what I do. I play the game. But cool. Have a good day. Thank you very much for watching.